Previously on F1 Academy.
Pulling and her protagonist, Mercedes driver Dorian Pain. Pin managed to maintain the start of the race at the lead, but Pulling moved forward into P2. Further down the grid, they traded places, and there was a big moment for Bianca Bustamante, which sent her to the back. It was Pocket Rocket Pat who took the win, but with 263 points to her name, Pulling made history and was crowned the 2024 F1 Academy champion.
And what a deserved champion it is, but we still got the team's championship to be decided with her team second place behind Prima. Welcome to race 2. An early morning for us in the UK, but afternoon here at the Losail International Circuit. Welcome to the Qatar Grand Prix, a circuit designed for motorcycle racing in mind, but we are here for open wheelers this weekend. 5.419 kilometres long with 16 turns, elevation change of 4.18 metres. No DRS for these cars, but surely we should be in for a better race this time around due to the much hotter track temperatures. What's not changed from yesterday was Dorian Pain starting on pole position this weekend, and we're going to see what's going to happen in race 2. The changes might happen differently, but we'll have to wait and see. And just like this morning, Wes delayed start update in 5 minutes. Welcome, Wes. How you doing?
I'm doing all right, thanks. How are you doing today, Jess?
I'm gutted that we've got a delayed start.
Yeah, I am too. I'm still trying to shake the sleep from my head this morning. I think the only person who got less sleep than me last night, no doubt, was Abby Pulling, celebrating long into the evening. But yeah, I'm sure she's fresh enough to be able to do well at this race this morning.
She's starting in the same position as she was yesterday. Megan's just back soon, and Booge was sorting her headset out. Hello, Megan, but I'll speak to you in just a second. We've got the starting grid. We've got Lola Love and Fossey and Chloe Chambers on the back row, and we've got Jess Edgar and Emily DeHouse 15th and 14th. Pretty much no change there for Emily DeHouse, but Jess Edgar, not the best second lap for her. Ahmed Al-Khabaisi starts 11th with Tina Houseman starting in 12th place. 11th, we got Carrie Schreiner, and then Aurelia Nobles in 10th. Nothing's changed there for those two. They're starting at the first half of the grid. Bianca Bustamante starting 9th. Block, not strong for her, but she had a good race start yesterday, so we'll see how she does in race 2. Hamna Al-Khabaisi starts 7th with Noea Marti starting 6th. Can she get on the podium today? In 5th spot, Abby Pulling. Well, she's not had the best of qualifying. Alicia Palmaski, the wildcard, starting 4th. And in 2nd place, Maya Wook. And in 1st place, Dorian Pain once again is looking to win 2 from 2 and hopefully secure 2nd in the Drivers' Championship. And before things got interrupted with the starters' orders, welcome, Megan. How are you feeling going into race 2?
Hi, tired.
I think we all are, to be honest. I woke up really tired as well, to be fair. I'm sure Abby Pulling will be even more tired than all of us. But Abby Pulling, I do believe she's going to have a little bit less pressure, I think this race. She's won the championship, probably had not much lead, but her main focus for her and her team, Megan, is the team's championship.
Yeah, that's the only thing at play now. And that might be a little bit more difficult, given her starting position.
Yeah, but she got into 2nd yesterday. We're seeing Alice Powell giving us a little bit of a wave. Hello. She probably didn't get much sleep either, does Alice Powell. Of course, her mentor, her protege as well. And of course, she'll be helping Abby go to GB3 next year, which I think is probably a relief for her that her season, well, 2025 season is pretty much sorted. Alice is still smiling from ear to ear, bless her. Still a delayed start update in 5 minutes, but let's talk about. I could probably guess why. Porsches.
Porsches.
Yeah, there was a barrier repair with the crash. There you go. You just see it on the screen now. So this might be a longer.
Yesterday.
That gives me too
That's
many.
Worse than yesterday.
Yeah, that reminds me too much of Roman Grosjean's barrier.
Right. Well, strap in, everyone. I think we're in for quite a few minutes of this.
Oh.
Well, I think it was me and Wes. We were chatting for 5-10 minutes, weren't we, yesterday, and we kept it together. But there's not much to talk about because a lot of things happen. But I have to feel sorry for Maya Wes. She just missed out on the win, did not get the best of starts, and she didn't look too happy in the cool down room. She was confident that she would get the race victory yesterday. Didn't happen. Could this be a chance starting second to take the victory away from Dorian Pan?
I think, yeah, she will be very, very hungry for the win yesterday. Today. Yesterday, she was unfortunate enough to be starting just in front of somebody on the cusp of winning the championship, and Abby was not going to be denied. She very much muscled her way past Maya Verg, and who can blame her, really? But Maya's still waiting for her first win of the season. I believe she's on right now 5, 6, 7 podiums. None of them will win, so yeah.
Yeah, I think it's bound to happen, Wes. It's bound to happen. Let's throw down to Omi, who's in the pit. Of course, you were watching the F1 Academy race yesterday and saw Abby becoming champion. What does that have in play for next year, with plenty of other drivers about to start their second season, like Dorian? Do you think Dorian could win an F1 Academy championship next season?
I mean, the driver who finishes as the runner-up and has a season the season after absolutely has to be a contender for it. So yeah, I think going into next season, Dorian Pan will be the title favourite, but I think we're going to get Dorian Pan being a title favourite, but I expect some other shocks. I expect some other people who we wouldn't usually expect to just come out there, rock up next season and be in contention for the championship. So it's going to be a really, really fun F1 Academy Championship next season, which is heading, of course, to some very interesting racetracks.
Yes, it is, but let's hear from Hamid Al-Kabaisi.
Fast, and you know, I'm sad to end it, but at the same time I'm grateful for the opportunity that I've had with Red Bull Racing, Pepe Jean's Academy program, and just all the support I had off track. It helped quite a lot, and I feel like for my journey ongoing for next year, I'll for sure take this as a learning curve and take a lot with me. To know that this is my last 2 rounds and it's close to home and one is home, I just want to end it well, and I want to be able to finally get that win for Red Bull.
Yeah, very, very good for her. But whilst we wait for the session to start, we will hand you over to the world feed until the formation lap starts. Over to Nikki Shields.
Over the course of this season, managed to work her way up the grid on several occasions. There is Dorian Pat, you can see in the black Mercedes racing suit, just perching on her car there. Most of the other drivers are in the car. She is obviously deciding to enjoy the rather cool breeze. I mean, air temperature at the moment is 23 degrees, which is a bit cooler than the conditions they experienced during testing. It was particularly cool last night. Temperatures dropped to 18 degrees, but it is still, by the looks of everyone's hair flying around, quite windy. Wind speeds at the moment 5.7.
Yeah, the wind has been gusty all week and catching some drivers out across all the series racing this weekend, especially in Sector 3, turns 12 and 13, where the wind goes on the rear of the car, creating quite lively conditions. The track temp is nearly double when these drivers were last out yesterday evening, now climbing up to 35.5 degrees. So it's going to be a very different race for these drivers. I expect the front left to grain up, just as these constant long radius corners here in Qatar, designed and built 20 years ago now, mainly for motorbike racing, but it's adopted well into a car racing track. But the front left does take a big pounding. You can see the flag there in the centre of your shot. Headwind into one, and look at the grasses as well getting pushed around. So there's a fair amount for the drivers to be thinking about as they have this delayed wait for the race to the start.
So now we can see the Tommy Hilfiger car of Nurea Marti. That was big news when it was announced that Tommy Hilfiger were going to be bringing their brand and livery to the F1 Academy. And again, same thing with the likes of Charlotte Tilbury. You know, we've got the 10 liveries from the F1 teams, but also the additional brands like Puma. And it just really shown how many eyes and the attention that F1 Academy, it's kind of rippled not just through the world of motorsport, not just through the world of sport, but also entertainment as well. Nerea Marti is very much focused on her battle in the championship at the moment for 3rd. So she's currently in 4th at the moment, but there is a 36 points gap between Maya Vug in 3rd, Nerea Marti in 4th, Chloe Chambers in 5th, and Hamna Alkabezi in 6th. Just 36 points, and there are 82 up for grabs over the next 3 races. So keep an eye out on Nerea Marti. She gets her elbows out, she fights, she wants to be back up there on the podium. She did have a couple of podiums, 3 podiums so far this year. But now we can see Bianca Bustamante. She's starting in 7th. Now, Bianca's had a really mixed season, hasn't she? She had a really good start to the year, pretty much in the points in all first 3 rounds, so 6 races, and then has been out of points ever since. We've seen mistakes. She kept going into the gravel trap yesterday. We did see a big incident where she spun, which sent her right to the back of the grid. What happens when suddenly you go from having a really solid season and then it just starts to decline?
Yeah, you just have to regroup, go back to the team and talk about what you need from the car. Driver coach has said Warren Hughes, got Zach Brown there as well. And all this, you just lean upon there. And let's not forget for ART, she has been the fastest driver the most times for ART, 5 times in her inter-team battle. So sometimes on the outside it may look a little negative, but there will all be positives to draw upon it. Her car control is top draw. And I think if she can just potentially calm it down, then that's where the pace would be for her. You can actually see Alicia Palmowski there is out of the car. Maya Vug as well in the Ferrari suit there just behind. They're obviously just getting out the car, wanting to just relax and calm down before the race intensifies and the battle starts.
So there we are. She's popped out of the car. Alicia Palmowski gave a great interview yesterday, full of enthusiasm, really eloquent, speaking about her time in F1 Academy. Then we can see Jess Hawkins there in the bobble hat. Statement piece, isn't it? Despite whatever the weather, Jess Hawkins is always in a nice woolly bobble hat. So Leah Block, let's talk about Leah, because what a season she's having. 17 years old, a very exciting young talent in motorsports. This is her debut performance in F1 Academy, the first time she's done a full season in single-seaters with ART. And she's sort of transitioned, hasn't she, from that successful career that she's had in off-road racing. She was actually the youngest champion in American Rally Association. But the car control that we've seen from her, the adaptability that she's brought to single-seater racing has been truly exceptional.
Yeah, and the pace on the back of that has been incredible. I'd actually say she's done super well, outperformed expectations in qualifying particularly. She's lost a couple of places at race starts, same as yesterday, dropped a couple of places, and yeah, that's maybe where her winter focus needs to be. Super fast, super talented over 1 lap in qualifying, which arguably is a harder trait to learn, but the racecraft, obviously something you don't have in rallying, is something that she'll be wanting to improve. It's been a really strong year, and she is just getting further and further forward on the grid every time we go out. Being super impressive, Leah. Probably my standout driver in this second half of the season.
Yeah, I would have to agree with you on that one. So everyone is just really starting to stretch their legs here. I mean, in terms of the frustration, I suppose, when you all get up ready to go racing and then things are delayed, how much is that going to impact your psychology, your approach to the start of this race?
Yeah, you tend to then just go back to a reset, so you'll have a procedure, and that's where sometimes sort of superstitions come into play. If you end up doing the same thing, you get superstitious by it, maybe left glove on first before right, always getting in from the same side of the car, saying thank you to the mechanics in a particular order, and all of that. I can see a truck in the background as we look at Leuven Foss, just where you can see another one there, just with some big concrete barriers. So I think that barrier damage, almost too severe to actually fix. They're going to put a new wall wall in front of it. So the drivers and engineers there will be saying, okay, this looks like the plan. We've seen this before. It's going to be 5 or 10 minutes. And there you can see the Hiab lorry with 2 catch fences already built up. And I saw a third one already in position. So they will just place them there, and that will cover that damaged barrier very securely. So there will be no further issues there whatsoever. So the track team doing a great job here at Qatar, getting this fixed as quickly as they can.
And this is one of the things that, of course, all these drivers now have to contend with. So this might be the second season, but it's the first season F1 Academy is on an F1 weekend. So it's a super tight schedule to fit into all the sessions when you've got, obviously, Formula 1, Porsche, F2, sometimes F3.
So I just want to correct Nikki there. It's been, F1 Academy's been on an F1 weekend the entire season, literally the point.
In this situation. There we can see Aurelia Nobles, who is the Puma driver, who'll be starting from 10th on the grid. Aurelia Nobles managed to finish in the points yesterday with a very respectable P9. We've seen some real flashes of brilliance from her in both qualifying and during the race. She's the highest place she's finished is 5th, which was in Zandvoort. And I think she's going to look back on this season as a really positive experience for her. You know, joining the Puma team and having, well, she's made really good friends, I believe, with some of her co-drivers, and this is just the start in her very early career.
Yeah, I mean, very impressive. Nobles, very mature for our youngest driver on the grid. Had a couple of chances yesterday to have a few lunges on Chloe Chambers as they battled, but decided better of it, and in hindsight that was the correct decision, and carried on without damage. Pulling there, looking super relaxed. Championship done, like we've already said. Starting third, she's got 2 very fast drivers in front, but she'll be maybe thinking, you know what, this is my time to get my elbows out. Those 2 drivers know that I've got nothing to lose. As we flash back to the Al-Qubaisi family, the 2 sisters from a very good racing father as well in Khalid, raced against him quite a lot in the Middle East. Proper Sicily love, that, isn't it, Nikki?
Quick squeeze of the face, yeah, exactly. But how lovely to be able to race alongside your sister, assuming you get on, of course. I know some siblings don't always see eye to eye, but they clearly do. They have a very strong relationship on and off the track. So Maya Vug, let's talk about Maya, because yesterday she didn't have the best start. She managed to qualify in P2 on the front row of the grid, and yet lost out to Abby Pulling, she was not going to take P3, was she, at the start of that race? Abby Pulling had her eyes set on a P2. Unfortunately, Maya Vug went round the outside, lost a bit of grip, and Abby Pulling managed to push ahead into P2. At the end of the race, she just looked a bit disheartened, didn't she? She didn't smile like the others on the podium, even though it was a very respectable P3 finish.
I'm glad to see her smiling this morning, because I think she was distraught last night, wasn't she? I think her Prema teammate Pan lost the championship, and it was really nothing that Maya Vug did wrong. She actually got a great start, got held up by Maya Vug, and then that was the problem, and that's why she lost the place. Looking at Jessica Hawkins here, the team ambassador for Aston Martin F1 Racing. We know how quick she is in a car, and lots of different cars, not just single-seaters, GTs, and that F1 test that she had with Aston Martin as well. We know the reports from the team were super strong against their usual test driver, so hopefully more driving for her in the future, but she does a great job in this ambassador role as well for Aston Martin.
Absolutely. I mean, what a role model for females, girls of any age all around the world, to see not just these 16 drivers racing, but also the support that they're getting from the likes of Jess Hawkins and Alice Powell, who have an incredible pedigree of their own. Here we have Dorian Pat. Now, if you didn't see the podium of yesterday's race, I would urge you to watch it. It is available on YouTube if you missed it on Sky Sports. And she came out onto the podium, jumped in the air, you know, sort of gave a big sort of high five to the crowd, and she was just very, very pleased with that win. Now, given the fact that obviously that's her 4th win of the season, 3rd win of the season, sorry, it just felt like this was the win that meant the most to her, even though she just missed out on that title.
Yeah, it's been a sort of capped off a dominant weekend thus far, hasn't it? The 3 days of testing they had here a couple of weeks ago. They were so quick at all times with Dorian Pan and the Premier team. Pole position in both races, led every single lap, fastest lap. It was a proper clean sweep for her. So yeah, she should be proud of what she's done in her first single season of racing as well. There's my other teammate. Yes, one's in Ferrari, one's in Mercedes, but both run by the great Prema team constructors. Champions last year, leading the championship now, extended that lead, didn't they, yesterday in race 1, so looking good. And it isn't just Prema, is it? When you look down the grid, the teams involved, there are some top teams involved.
Yeah, there really are. I mean, the likes of Prema, Rodin, Campos, ART, MP, these are the very best, particularly when it comes to nurturing young talent, which is why they have such a critical role in getting the best out of these drivers, but they know exactly how to do it. They are the best, the pros when it comes to this area. And that's a reminder as well. The whole point of F1 Academy is so that it can become this feeder series into the next step, whether that is into eventually F3, F2, and climbing up the ladder into F1. And of course, it's going to take time. You know, the number of female drivers at the moment is still nowhere near where it needs to be. But having F1 Academy will inspire the next generation, will inspire drivers from a grassroots level. And it's amazing to see the number of registrations has increased from 3% up to 25% for females over the last year. Now that is huge. Again, it's going to take time for that talent to trickle through, but that's the whole point of F1 Academy, you know, to see these drivers, the younger generation who are going to come through will look up to these role models and aspire to race at the very top of their game. There's Chloe Chambers, who's racing for the Haas team. It was recently announced she is going to be racing for Red Bull Ford next season, so that's great to see that she has confirmed her seat. One driver who hasn't confirmed their seat yet for next year is Dorian Pan. It's obviously Abby Pulling's last season, so we won't be seeing her again, but Dorian Pan will hopefully be back next year, I would assume, again with Mercedes, as she's done such an incredible job. But it's not official yet, unless you've heard anything, Joe.
I haven't officially that I can comment on, but yeah, I'm looking happy there. And you make a great point on the seismic change of female drivers involved, but it isn't just the drivers, is it? There's the mechanics, the engineers, the data engineers, all the way through to team management now. We're seeing more and more females involved, and that's really what I love. The single most element of F1 Academy is, yes, the drivers are the spearhead, the focal point, but it filters through all the way through into motorsport. And I see it in my day-to-day. I can go to any random motorsport event, and in the last decade that's changed so quickly, and always for the better. I've said it before, but as a driver, all I want is the fastest car, and if we can get better staff from a bigger pool of people, then that's great, and that's exactly what we're seeing here at the moment across the globe in motorsport.
Yeah, absolutely. And as you mentioned now, we've got some really powerful positions, such as we've got, you know, the team's manager, Camilla Colombo, who is at Prema. And I mean, what, again, a leading figure spearheading that team. She recently was saying, though, that she very much feels the Prema team deserve to win this team's title. They've obviously been fighting really hard and have got a great selection of drivers in Tina Hausman, Dorian Pan and Maya Vogue. But only time will tell how they're going to get on in the team's championship, because there is still a fair amount to play for with 3 races to go. Given this is race 2, how much are they going to be looking at the data from yesterday, and how much can they use it? Yesterday's race was at 11 p.m. at night. It was very cold, very different conditions, but we go again today, same track, but yeah, how useful is it?
Yeah, because it was 14 laps, there's relevance in the length of it, but the track conditions so different. As a driver, I would actually be looking back at FP1, similar time of day on Friday, so similar conditions. That's where the teams would have based their tyre pressures, the setup of the car, and the drivers should be really looking at those laps, video and data-wise, to see what they were doing and what they could improve on. So it is really quite a different feeling as the track temp evolves up and down the scale.
So that is Gabriella Parra there, that we can see the team manager. giving Carrie Schreiner a bit of a support there in kick Sauber. Getting ready to go racing, hopefully very soon. Now, it was announced this week that there is a new official prize for F1 Academy, and that is a race seat in GB3 next season. So that is what Abby Pulling will be doing. That's a nice shot, isn't it? Of Noé Marty just perching on a Tommy Hilfiger car. Just the amount of value that F1 Academy has now brought to the world of motorsport, and the value that that prize will have. You know, let's not forget, it's really difficult to find a race seat. It's even harder to find funding. Abby Pulling touched upon it yesterday. She's really struggled with funding over the course of her career. In her second season of British F4, she had to drop out halfway through due to funding problems. She raced in W Series. That obviously folded due to funding issues. It's not easy. So the sort of relief for her to have that opportunity in GB3 is huge.
I mean, that GB3 prize probably has a value of $1.5 million US, so it's great for Pulling to be able to continue on her platform. There's Nobles. Like you said, she's made friends over the season with lots, but her and Leah Block always seem very close, and they'll be able to share lots of information on and off track, and you try and buddy up sometimes. There's a lot of time spent on the road, travelling in hotels and airports, and it goes much, much quicker if you can have some good relationships with other drivers on the grid.
Giving it a wave to, I thought it was the fans. It is to the guys at ART, which is always good. So Bianca Bustamante giving us a lovely wave as well. Oh, and a bit of a heart. We love you too, Bianca. And good luck for this race, because it's going to be a tough one for her. But she's very much a bit of a superstar, not just in the Philippines, but worldwide. She's very big on the old socials. Which I know you're very up to date with, Joe. But Bianca Bustamante, if you haven't followed it already, give her a little follow, because she does do some brilliant content, and it's just always giving us a bit of insight into what's going on behind the scenes in the world of F1 Academy. So it's really lovely to see what all the drivers get up to, including the fact that they had an open paddock earlier on in the week. So loads of fans came down to support, including Lewis Hamilton. He was there, obviously, as a fan, giving his support to Dorian Pin, who was also on Jimmy Kimmel earlier in the week, which again just shows the step up that this series has had in terms of the value to fans, and to be able to go on to Jimmy Kimmel. I think Dorian Pin had the time of her life. Lucky thing.
Yeah, really cool. Global reach all across, and I'd say all 16 drivers plus the wildcard, all of their social medias now are very good and interesting. So it's interesting to see how they all approach things differently. Abby Pulling very light-hearted with her stuff, and doesn't take herself too seriously, which is interesting. When you think she's the champion, you would expect that they go the most serious, but every driver has their own way of portraying their attitude and their ethos to motorsport. Al-Kubaisi sisters look like they might start wrestling more. I think we need to get this race underway before we find out which sister would win in a fight.
Looks like they're trying to trip each other up, but I'm sure it's all meant with love. Oh, maybe it's going to be a dance. Oh, okay. Oh, no, karate moves. Okay, cool. Well, that's one way to... So I used to do this when I was a little girl. There used to be a rhyme that goes with it. I'm not going to sing you the rhyme, but that's one way to keep you distracted from this rather lengthy delay. So there we have Gabriele Mini again. We saw him yesterday showing his support for the drivers with Alpine. But you can see how windy it is. That's really going to affect the drivers. Now, we saw a lot of them battling it out, particularly in practice, with that gravel trap. Well, many of the gravel traps all around the circuit, actually. But actually, yesterday in the race, it only really caught out one or two, one of which being Bianca Bustamante. In terms of them learning, because previous races, obviously, we've had the Singapore Grand Prix, which is very tight, you know, walls, very unforgiving. Whereas this is a great way to learn, because it's an open track. Yes, you do pay the price going into a gravel track, but at least it's not a wall.
Yeah, definitely, and we've seen lots of drivers pushing the boundaries all the way to 100, 105% there. Abby pulling, just looking very relaxed still as we wait, and the wind is blustery as well. You can see with Pulling's hair there, it isn't a constant breeze, and that makes it even harder there. Bruno Michael, the CEO of F2 and F3 on the championship, potentially speaking to a future driver of his, hopefully on the grid in Abby Pulling.
Now that would be very exciting to see. He also does help look after F1 Academy as well, obviously alongside Susie Wolf. Now that looks like a very nice way to start your morning. Very civilised.
Very civilised, isn't it? Especially if you're used to the European winter temperatures that we're suffering at the moment. 23 degrees ambient out there in Qatar, that strong breeze. The breeze here as well really does blow. Every time I've been to Qatar, it's windy. It's the second flattest nation in the world, so there isn't really much stopping the wind sweep across this arid desert landscape. Don't get too much sand blown on. Luckily, there's some vegetation in that desert around as Alicia Palmovsky looks into the sun, just trying to work out how much longer am I going to be stood here. You kind of run out of your small talk, ask your engineer what's the time. Maybe they're even starting to think, is the race going to be maybe shortened from its either 30-minute or 14-lap configuration? Tight schedule on F1 here, so the teams will be working out what's the most likely scenario here. They won't be able to make any adjustments in terms of setup, or even they'd take some fuel out if they could, if they're not going to do such a long race. But as a driver, you're rather thinking, oh, if it's going to be 8 laps, I don't need to manage the tyre as much if it was a 14-lap run.
Now, one thing that you get in F1 Academy is super licence points. The top 5 classified drivers in the standings will get super licence points. Can you just explain the significance of that? Why is it so important?
So without super licence points, you cannot race in F1. So it is a huge barrier to entry, not being able to collect those super licence points. And there's very few championships in the world which allow you to collect them. So obviously the better you do in any of those championships, Formula 1 Academy, the same. It means that you've got the chance to get enough super licence points to be able to race in F1. So it's really the first barrier that needs knocking down on your route to the top.
And in terms of the car as well, it is effectively it's an F4 single-seater car, isn't it? Officially the T421, but it's effectively the same car for all of them. Same aero, same front wing, rear wing, same thing going on underneath, but they can obviously make changes to the setup. How much of an effect will that have on the performance of the car?
Yeah, the F1 Academy Series have used a great starting point in this car. This car I've actually driven a fair bit this year, and it's a great learning car. It's very raw, no driver aids whatsoever, so no anti-lock braking. You brake too hard, you lock up. No traction control, you accelerate too hard too early, you will spin up the rear tyres. Also very limited downforce. Yes, there's front and rear wings, but they don't generate a huge amount of grip, so it's really down to the mechanical grip part of it. So the tyres really are doing the majority of the work, which makes it even harder for these drivers.
So we have...
Jess, we've got the news.
Yeah.
Sorry, I was eating when that news was broke, but we just have to be confirmed that the F1 Academy Race 2 has been cancelled. So there won't be racing anymore. So yeah, F1 Academy Race 2 will be cancelled. A bit unfortunate that we didn't get any racing underway, but we are on a tight schedule. So we've got F2 and the F1 still to go, and they can't delay it even more. So bit of a shame about that, but I think if they had to get going, then it would have had to go into the evening tonight. I think people would have wanted to pack and go home. So yeah, a bit of a shame there, but I think not surprised.
Sadly not, isn't it, Wes? I mean, I would have liked to have seen what Dorian could have done, and even they're going like, what? Oh, Dorian's really angry, actually. Wow. They could have run this race. We've got an hour and a half before we go racing for Formula 2. That could have easily been done.
Yeah, that's what I thought too, but the F1 Prix event what can you call it, stuff, I guess.
Yeah.
Pre-build
that
up.
cannot be eaten into. Pre-build up, yeah, thank you, Jess. Yeah, that can sadly not be eaten into, so that takes precedence over everything else. Hopefully the F2 won't be affected, but we'll have to wait and see.
I think they're still repairing the barrier as well.
Well,
That's taken a while.
next year, don't bring the Porsches. Just saying.
Yeah, next year don't bring the Porsches, let's just say. But we would ask for final thoughts, but we don't have any final thoughts because the race didn't happen. But you could join us next week for the Abu Dhabi Grand Prix. Hopefully less chaos will be there. But next time out will be the F2s around Qatar. And let's hope that we won't have a delay for proceedings for that one, for the feature race. We've got the championship contenders starting P1, P2 and P9. It's going to be electric. Sorry about the cancellation, but hopefully we'll be back underway next week. Join us then for the final round of F1 Academy. Take care. Bye-bye.